Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Swede Rolls. I'm Chris,
I'm Toby. I'm Max.
And I'm Andreja.
back again to talk a bit more about role-playing in MMOs,
Yes.
which is sort of your forte.
I guess.
And you gave us a little bit of an introduction in the previous episode to how long you've been playing and what games you've been playing. So let's just dive straight into the whole role-playing scene. Have you done any, I know people role-play in guilds, like you do, but there's also solo role-playing, isn't there? Or is it a mix between the two?
I can say that usually people will always strive to be part of a community if you're going to roleplay, because I think a lot of people, from what I've seen and from what I've talked with my guild or free company mates in Final Fantasy XIV, is that you want to be a part of a whole, especially in an MMO, and that's, I mean, it encourages players to play together purely because it doesn't always have to be because of roleplay, but because of cooperation and
a sort of established canon in the group, like we talked
Yes.
about in the previous one. This is the rules we're following, right?
Yes.
This is how we relate to the canon. Like in your guild, you'd have a higher bar for joining.
I guess people want to, the higher bar, actually, I think it's, like I said, it's mostly community based. I think it's like, you want to, okay, so if you're playing games, let's start with that. If you're playing games, I think you play why you want to have fun. Some people want to meet new people, and just, hang out and try to be creative together, that kind of thing. And so, like we spoke before, this canon provides some kind of a mutual guidelines, agreements by which people play. And so it's easier to be part of the same whole as a community. Of course, there are people that, that stray from it. And I guess it's for different reasons. Maybe they didn't interact. Maybe they didn't click well with the community they tried. Stuff like that. But as a whole, it's always a bit more, you want to strive to be part of the community. If you are a solo player, you could probably enjoy other types of games more or just as much, depending.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I say solo because I've seen people in the inn and not Alamigo.
Which one?
The desert city.
Ulda.
Ulda, yeah. And apparently the inn is sort of like the Goldshire Inn in World of Warcraft. That's where all the ERP is going on. So I like to jump up on tables and just stand there and jump for a little bit before I go somewhere else, just to bother people.
Well,
Why? Are you a hobbit?
No, I'm a Mikode.
Dancing on the tables.
Now I get the reference, yeah. But I don't know. I feel like it's kind of poor taste to do ERP in the middle of a crowded city.
Well,
ERP is erotic role playing, in case you're not familiar with the terminology.
I
thought it was electronic.
Oh,
so I had a totally different interaction of why I went with the hobbits.
Yeah. ERP is, as long as there's been role playing, there's been erotic role playing. That's pretty much
maybe
a fact.
Longer.
And probably longer, yeah. So people erotic role playing, at least mildly, in public areas.
There were cases that I've stumbled upon, I have to say. I'm not going to relay anything because I don't think this is that kind of podcast.
No.
But,
it could be.
But I think the general consensus is, of course the game doesn't allow it.
It doesn't allow. The game itself doesn't allow you to.
The game,
be explicit.
I think you can get banned for it. I'm pretty sure you can get banned for it. It's just that, you can. It's no.
It's bad
don't,
taste.
If you whatever you do in private chat, whatever, but
So it's okay in private chats.
Well, how are you gonna stop people in private chat?
I guess, yeah. Do they keep logs of people's chats? Do you know?
I'm not sure, but I don't think they check up on every log that
Well, that would
everyone
be impossible
did.
to do,
That's a little bit a lot.
Just code word search for penis.
Someone sitting there on the company scrolling.
They have this
just-
long list of different synonyms for engorged body parts.
God.
Yes.
Like, okay, let's see how many people wrote this.
Search for the word vor.
Oh dear.
That's kind of our trademark kink, now, isn't it?
Yes. Vor kink shame.
Yeah. It's a channel.
What?
No. That's for another completely
Don't
different
search
podcast.
that.
I know what it is.
Okay.
We show up on Little Nightmares Vor. If you search that on YouTube, we're in the top 5 hits.
Oh, right.
We found a niche. And let's just say that episode got quite a lot more views than any of our other episodes.
And we noticed the reason why.
Yeah.
Yes.
The title?
Yes.
Mm.
And the tags. But that's an interesting thing that the game actually has to sort of enforce a rule of keep it in your pants, people.
Well,
Keep it in your chats.
in your chats. Well, if you have obviously the game has a rating,
Yeah.
and they go by that.
Yeah.
And if it's not like a super high rating, of course you're gonna be banned. And there's people who play like I think it's 16.
16 is the
I
age.
think.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong. Someone should correct me.
Yeah, it's fine. We say a lot of things that's
But
wrong
I think
here, so-
that it's also, for example, a curious thing about the community that I noticed was also something that we mentioned before about how you said that World of Warcraft has designed roleplay servers and Final Fantasy
designated, yeah.
designated, sorry,
Right.
and Final Fantasy doesn't. And when the producers were addressed as of why, was because I think, if I remember correctly, they just don't want to do it. They don't want to designate a server for one thing specifically. They want to keep all the servers
Available?
for every kind of content. So, high tier raiders can be in the same world as role players, but they did.
But on the other hand, Bahamut, which is the server you're on, right?
Balmung.
Balmung, is the unofficial roleplay
Exactly,
server.
and
it's
it
super hard to
has-
get into.
It is impossible. It's been blocked for, I think, a couple of weeks, pretty sure.
And I'm using up 6 of those slots with my characters that I never play.
What? You
I love
monster!
Role. Yeah, I'm terrible.
You hog spaces on the server?
Yeah. There's only a certain amount of characters on each server, right?
You can have 8 characters, depending which type of account you have. You can have eight characters on a specific server, and they've closed it off because it's been so overpopulated. And with the new expansion just launching, or it's not going to be just by the time this podcast is out, but they've been trying to gate as I think there's 27,000 players or player characters on Balmung.
Which is
right
way
now,
more than other servers.
which is more than I think the collective of the whole European center or something like that. It's
So
crazy a lot.
Why are there so many players on that specific server?
Because it's an official roleplay server, I
So
think.
people really want that roleplay experience.
Yes, I think so. And here's what I heard even from non-raiders. The roleplay community is something really attractive. Because if you think about it, okay, there's NPCs talking about quests and debating things, and you get quest lines, and you get sometimes random dialogue popping in the game. But what if you just walk into a bar and you have a group of role players doing their thing there about, the role-playing, maybe just having a beer or I don't know, having a meal, or there's a
ERPing.
fight.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Sorry.
It's not as common as you
No,
think.
I know.
In
I know. World of
other
Warcraft was
channels.
worse.
Yes.
Anyway, sorry for interrupting.
It's fine. And I think it really adds to the atmosphere. And that's really important.
Isn't it also true that at least in your guild, serious role players are also serious players in a lot of cases? They try really hard to be the characters they're playing, so being good at what they're doing.
Yes, but it doesn't take away from the fact that, for example, the reason why we like it the way it is in Balmung, I think we like it. Well, I like it because I like raiding and I like role playing. So what was I supposed to do? I don't want to choose. So it does well for me. We also have a few select people, even though we are we're a role-playing free company, we have people who don't rate at all, and we have people who are really high tier raters also. So it's like, it's a good way of going through things. And sometimes role players can be very, very motivated to rate or do high content because, and here's the thing, fashion.
Oh, fashion. Yes. The most important in most things.
Gotta look fancy when rating.
Yes, especially souls.
Right.
Fashion souls, yeah.
Oh.
Dark souls for fashion.
And
No. Continue.
that was another thing that was really important, fashion, as you said, because I've asked a lot of, I've asked my whole free company to please fill out a couple of questions for me so I could see what they think really more in detail. And, but this is what comes up all the time, fashion, you know, someone wants that skirt, or someone wants those boots, or someone wants that
You
thing.
spend a lot of time looking at clothes. In
I
this
do.
Game.
I have a lot of outfits. It's
Camera.
like,
They even implemented a system to kind of look at your character from different angles and different lights, right? They implemented a
Right,
camera
yeah.
system.
I think
It's a Snapchat. Thank you very much.
No, but it was like you could sync up with other people in emoting.
that's in Guild Wars too, yeah.
No, in Final Fantasy XIV.
Oh yeah, right, because you have it's basically, but World of Warcraft did it first.
Oh yeah,
They had the selfie, whatever. I didn't.
selfie stick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah. In
I am unaware of this.
in Warlords of Draenor, the second latest expansion, they actually implemented a selfie stick that you could emote to and like put filters on.
This is... I'm not pleased.
It was actually pretty funny. People put selfies before raid bosses and stuff like, like, smiling in front of them.
That's hilarious.
But why?
Why not?
There's a
Because-
screenshot function.
But it's hard to synchronize it, and you couldn't apply. Well, you could apply filters later on, but yes, we got off topic here a bit.
I think why fashion is important. A lot of people mention that you know, the reason why they play MMOs instead of, or mostly MMOs instead of going into D&D sessions like face to face, was partially because they can do a visual of their character. And so customization is super important to whoever is role playing
I
in
mean,
MMO.
you can buy
and
emotes in this game, right?
emotes and stuff like that. Yeah.
So you'd say your avatar is more important in this, perhaps, than it would be if you had a, I don't know, painted little miniature when playing tabletop. The fact that you have an avatar, you can change clothes, you can customize the appearance, because that is more a sort of a role, perhaps. It's a visual medium for the role.
It is probably a lot easier for people to comprehend who they're speaking with.
And also to take on a certain personality. Like I can imagine there's a lot of role players who are role playing their character 24/7 in Final Fantasy XIV or online. Like you take on a specific persona when you're playing this character. It's easier through text,
Yeah.
and you have this visual representation of the character you're playing. So I mean,
I definitely think it's a very big thing to do. Like, because for example, if you're face to face to someone, you have to. If you're role playing, it takes, or if you're doing live action role play, you have to kind of work a lot harder every day, or you have to put more of voice acting, of maybe even clothes or appearance. Maybe you have to even train, you know, to be able to roleplay someone in a live action setting or something like that. And that's very, very difficult if you think about it. Some people maybe do not have the resources. Some people maybe do not have the time. And they still, maybe even that, or some people are just physically impaired and just cannot, or you know, have disabilities, and those are
social anxiety. Fuck yes.
well,
that is a thing too.
That's why you shouldn't play Bob in Final Fantasy XIV.
No, but if you,
that is probably also why I have not role played in MMOs and such things, because of I don't know how people will react.
But it is a shared world in MMOs, and you have less control over what's going on than you would in a tabletop role-playing game. Like, you can have a super serious session in one of those hideouts you found in Guild Wars 2, which are pretty cool. You found, like, hidden rooms. and then all of a sudden someone jumps in dressed like a chocobo, like rah, 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 jumping around and dancing, and then they leave. Like, for example, I would do.
Yes.
Yes, that's totally a thing you would do.
Yeah. I have a fat chocobo helmet right now, which is a huge chicken head that I run around in.
So you do not look at fashion at all. You
Well-
I do.
sick
I do.
bastard.
He looks at fashion and then he does the opposite.
I reject fashion. It's a
I reject
statement.
your fashion and substitute it with my own.
Yes, exactly. Now, I usually don't troll people because first of all, it's a huge waste of time. But I also, it's really a huge time investment, I believe, for you guys.
Well, it is role playing in general is
Oh,
a
that's
time
true.
investment.
That's
so,
true.
But in MMOs, I have to say, there is an extra time investment also sometimes. I've wanted a jacket for my character. I've run a single dungeon 32 times to be able to get it.
And how long would you say each run of the dungeon would take?
Half an hour, maybe?
So 16 hours, roughly.
Yeah.
15, 16 hours.
Till
For
I
one jacket.
got the RNG drop of the jacket. I still wear it today. It's
Number
been
generator
2 years now.
RNG.
RNG.
Yeah. But
Oh boy.
for example, glamour.
Yeah, this is like the visual.
Yeah, to be able to
fashion.
turn the ugly as fuck armor that you have, which is the best one, and make it look really nice. Glamour.
Or that it suits your roleplay purposes. Maybe you want to roleplay on the beach, you know.
And that's one of the occasions where the game, no, actually not, the game designers sort of put something into the game that doesn't serve a game purpose, but rather serves an aesthetic purpose.
Right.
And that's pretty interesting. Like Guild Wars had a lot of hidden places, for example, that were like the strawberry field, very hidden,
Yes.
where you could role play. That was like very good setting for role playing.
They like Guild Wars in particular had a lot of Easter eggs. For example,
Yeah.
they had unfinished dungeon pass that you just never removed that you could either run into if you knew where you were going,
Yeah.
or they had a tribute to one of their novels somewhere that was not relevant to anything or anyone. It was just there.
Perfect backdrops for role playing.
Yeah, exactly. If you wanted to go there that way. Yeah.
And Final Fantasy XIV implemented furnishing in houses.
Exactly. There's housing, so you can own a house. It's very difficult to get a house on such a high populated server, but yes, you can own a house. And in that house you can also craft and put furniture however you want, which is very important for a roleplay setting.
Yeah.
But that reminds me also of Arc Age.
Hmm.
It's also one of these very free, open worlds. You only get a certain set of small quests, and then it's like, you're off. You're done now, kiddo. Go do your
Go
own thing
take on
in
the
the
world in your pantsless state.
Yeah, and then it's like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? And that's I think that's probably with a game that's that open, is probably a very easy world to start role-playing in. Because it doesn't really have that much, it doesn't really have more quests.
Okay.
It has quests, but there's so few of them compared to how big the world is, how expansive it is.
So you're saying you sort of make your own quests?
That's a little bit of what I did
It's kind of like
when
a
I was.
sandbox.
It is
I s-
mostly a sandbox because you can do everything like this: build a house, build a farm, work, fishing, of course, very important.
That is important.
And also, you could AFK fish in it. You could just stand there and you used up your fishing rod until it was gone, and then you
That's
switched to a new one.
That's a feature they should implement in more games.
Yes.
I was just thinking that the sort of making your own quests thing, that relates a bit back to what you did to acquire that jacket. That's sort of, you made that your quest, didn't you?
Yes.
And that sort of,
Yeah, grind
Well,
this
that-
dungeon 32 times to get a jacket.
I mean,
Yes.
acquire the jacket
Yeah.
was your quest
Yeah.
for that thing. And I mean, that pops up maybe a little bit more if you're role-playing
Yeah.
and not just playing the game.
Yeah, if integrating the game mechanics
Yeah.
as well. Like fishing, for example, is an interesting aspect. You could have a fishing guild. You're
Yes.
a bunch of fishers who travel around the Eorzea fishing in different spots. that would be a
Yes.
role-playing opportunity.
Absolutely. There's different kinds of guilds. Absolutely.
Carpenters Guild. Like they would be famous carpenters because they would be very good at carpenting.
Can I say something about the carpenter? There is a carpenter job in Final Fantasy XIV, and one of my, because I'm in two free companies at the moment, and one of my, before they close the servers, right? The one of the leaders of the other free company that I'm just helping in with made a specific Mikote called
Cat person, yeah.
IKEA Tia.
What?
So that's still using
That's just a carpenter
Oh,
selling
no.
things on the market.
and that's using the lore.
You're welcome.
Because it's
Yes.
canon. It follows the lore.
It follows the naming convention I''T Kia Tia.
Yeah.
So that works.
Right.
But yeah,
Wow.
about the whole making your own quests. Absolutely. I think one of the things that I've seen people have responded the most was about how creativity is shared in MMOs. There is no one GM. Like in my free company, when I had an idea for a plot, I went to the vanguards then, to the officers, and was like, look, I have a plot. What are we gonna do? And so they helped me stage it, but if I wanted to, it could have been like, oh, they kidnapped my son, let's
Vanguard-
go save it in that dungeon because they say so, and we could have done so.
Vanguard officers. Or...
They are, you have a guild leader, and then you have the helpers, because
okay.
obviously one person cannot do everything.
Okay, so the Vanguard are the vice.
Yes, like kind of like
Yeah, yeah.
vice
Okay.
captains, if you want. Sorry.
Okay. but that's interesting that you get this kind of support for your own thing, like.
It is an interesting hierarchy because there's so many people in playing MMOs or in guilds, and of course you need some kind of structure, and you need people that needs to actually help with the mechanics of the game as well. For example, we have vanguards who like oversee specific plots, or I mean the people in charge. Let's put it let's say it that way. They obviously they have to make sure that everyone is behaving, that there's respect going on, there's no tension, that everyone is sort of looked after in a way. But they also have to do like mechanic stuff, like, oh gosh, new expansion came out, someone has to put up the buffs for XP, or I don't know, the reduced teleport rate, stuff like that. So you have to know the game itself better.
Mechanics, yeah.
But you also have to know the community. And I think that's really, really important to enable everyone to be creative in a way, while following the rules and while following the mechanics of the game. It's kind of it's like I said, everyone can be a GM, but there has to be some kind of
But isn't it like
balance.
if you want to make a character and you go, okay, I want to be this cool warrior, for example, isn't it kind of a hassle that you start at level 1? So you're like, I want to be a cool warrior, but the game limits your scope of what you can be.
Yeah,
How do people deal with that?
We power level.
Okay, that was a simple solution.
Power gamers.
Dungeons in Final Fantasy XIV are really interesting, by the way.
Yes, it is. It is
Very well made.
It is the game. If you like dungeon context or raids, they have a whole like myriad of them. You can do whatever you want. It's beautiful.
They come in story
so-
mode and
Final Fantasy XIV. I defeated Ifrit and got Chocobo. That's it. That's all I've done in the game, and that
pretty far,
took
though.
me like a month
yeah.
Wow.
because
Wow.
I was trying to play with 3 other people. So we tried to do everything at the same time. But as of course, I was studying at the time, and one of the people who wasn't studying, one of our friends, one of the Joannes, not the one who has been on this podcast, but he played that game quite a lot. So suddenly it's like, I came home, started up this game. Why is he like 6 levels higher than me right now? Came in next day, he's even still more levels
That's a
than me.
huge source of frustration in MMOs in general, I feel like.
Because I thought, when I got that, I thought,
Yeah.
hey, let's all go level together and everything like that. It was the same with arcade game.
But these days, that's usually not as much of a problem as it was in, for example, vanilla World of Warcraft, where leveling took fucking forever. And I know initial Final Fantasy XIV, the first version of it was hell.
I know. That's
they've
the
just-
one I played.
They've
Oh,
just
gosh.
streamlined it. First
My
Final Fantasy
condolences.
XIV was so bad that they recalled the game and reworked it from scratch and re-released it because it was so bad.
That's one of the like I said, they listen. I think the reason why I've stuck, for example, with Final Fantasy XIV is because they listen to their community a lot, and they have a good communication with them. So
Let's see now. I was in first time beta tester for Final Fantasy XIV,
oh dear.
and another time a beta tester for Final Fantasy XIV when it was re-released.
Oh, yeah. And it's a huge difference.
It was a huge difference.
They made
Holy
crafting
crap.
really fun.
Yes.
I'm a crafter, so.
I wonder a little bit about just getting back on topic, but still, the like MMOs and role playing in them. Is it the difference if there are smaller servers or if like there's a single server everyone plays on? Is there gonna be a difference in behavior more so, or do you think?
First of all, I think it all depends on the capacity of the servers and the hard drives from the developers.
Yeah, I mean,
I do not think there is enough space yet to have every single one playing.
I'm looking at like Eve, which runs everything in one server with a few exceptions.
First of all, they're mad.
They're really clever.
Yes, that
Each
is also
area has its own physical server,
Yes.
or virtual might be, but still has its own server cluster. So not everyone is on the same server from the server side, but everyone's in the same world.
Yes.
And I don't know if that
Everyone
would
can
cause
everyone can interact with everyone.
exactly. And I wonder if that would cause a difference in behavior for a role-playing group of some kind of guild or whatever, or it would be
Yeah.
perhaps as it is with your describing Final Fantasy XIV, that there is a sort of unofficial role-playing server where most of those people hang out.
Actually, that's kind of what happened in Guild Wars 2, what you're describing. So at the beginning, in Guild Wars 2, they had every server was by itself, and there were those that were sort of unofficially roleplay, if we want to call them that way. But as the game progressed, because of population differences, they sort of merged everything into a mega server, kind of. And then they also gave guild halls, so people segmented away. So even though they connected everything went disconnected at the same time. In Final Fantasy, they did not quite the same thing, but they allow you to do dungeons and, community shared content that you got to go through that you can do across your data center, which is separate for America, separate for Europe, and separate for Asia. And how roleplay ties into this. You can't really roleplay in there like that. And I think that at the end of the day, the community is really what holds things together. So, of course, if you have a bigger community, there's a bigger chance of you finding people you click better with, or you have a wider variety of choices for your free company, guild, whatever. So it's better if there's more people, obviously. Now, if they do it with a mega server, or if you just do it with a large population server. Coming from Guild Wars 2 to Final Fantasy XIV, I think the community is more varied in a sense of, we're all on the same server. So this is just me. Personally, I would prefer it, same server, let's go. But they've been trying, because of the population, they've been trying to segment away, and because the server is locked down, no new characters can come in, they've segmented and they've chosen another roleplay server, I think now, and they're kind of trying to move over there. But the community on Balmung, for example, Balmung is so strong that, for example, we do one of the other free company event that I do, the free company that I am in, we do events. Like Final Fantasy allows you to create macros and stuff like that. So we just do emotion macros, emotions, emote macros over songs, and people come to listen to that. It's crazy.
We should link You haven't put your videos online.
No
I'm
videos
not
are out.
allowed-
You gotta
no,
come
not allowed
role
to.
play. You too, Toby. Come with
No.
your Jacob.
This
It's
is
okay.
this is kind of a terrifying thing for me because I see her spend a whole
4 hours per song.
4 hours just sit there listening to the same song over and over and encoding in her dance moves for her character.
What?
And this is very hush hush. You're not allowed to see this if you're not part of the guild because then they can copy your moves. So it's like you should have a school for teaching people to dance. You're like, no, I don't want people to copy my dances. Like,
No, but
the hell?
if you come and be part of the free company, then we will teach you, no problems. So
That would not work.
that's interesting.
no, it's not that strict actually, but yeah, a lot of people put a lot of work into roleplay in different ways, I feel. And
Yeah.
but I think one thing that's
What's the name of your free company, by the way?
which one?
The one in
both. The main one is called Aeon,
Mhm.
and the secondary is called Lucky.
Yeah.
So
So if you're playing Final Fantasy XIV on Balmung, if you see Aeon or Lucky, then give them a wave.
they're good.
Yeah, good people.
They're great.
Yeah, they're better than you.
No, hey,
What?
no, we're not.
I'm actually gonna have to sort of because we're running towards an end of the episode. I'd really like you to, if you have some tidbits from the questionnaires that you gave to your free company friends. Because I'm really interested. You made some notes here. You had how many pages is that? 5 pages?
5 pages of stuff. Yes, here.
Toby's just
And-
looking at it, going, "Ugh."
I think
It's a novel.
Well,
I had
what
to,
sort
like,
of questions
highlight-
did you ask them?
I asked them a little bit of general questions, like how long, just to get an overview. How long have they role played? Have they role played in other sessions? It's mostly things we've actually already talked about, and that we might talk about in further episodes as well. The only thing that I think I should note now it's one of the questions that I've asked, which was what you think is really important in role playing in MMOs.
Oh, I
And-
thought you were gonna say, what do you think is real in MMOs?
The drama is
Whatever
real.
you want,
Yes.
it's role play.
Yeah.
No, but they've said that the most important thing, the majority of the people that answered this questionnaire was the distinction between in character and out of character. And that's a distinction that's harder to make when it's just you and a computer and you don't have the people around the table with you. And so a lot of people start blending reality, and I agree with them. Because it's you have to know when it's time to step back and be like, no, I am not my character. I am saying a story.
I see.
Yeah.
And
That is also probably a thing I would not be able to do.
oh, you can. It's
But
not.
text communication, and I'm
Is-
looking at you here, Toby, because
Yes.
we have some issues in text communication
Yes,
too.
we have.
have very different ways of expressing ourselves.
Yes, I am very just no emotes, no nothing, just either an exclamation mark or a question mark or a.
And I think you can count on one hand how many times I've written a post that doesn't have an emote in it.
Yes. But also, it has actually come to some situation that you ask if I'm angry at or something, or if I'm in a bad mood.
Because we just have extremely different ways of communicating.
Yes.
Which is not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
I've noticed that as well.
For
Because
me,
if I text you,
yes,
I usually write a text that fulfills, like, I put as much into one text as possible. And I usually get an answer along the lines of, okay.
I mean, you could just play a very stoic character.
we'll see what happens.
Joy in the...
Yeah, come over.
First of all, I do not have the time.
Oh.
Aw.
That is very true.
That is
I
true.
do
True.
not have the time. You don't have the time,
No,
Chris.
no. We don't. I still don't understand how I managed to get as much into my daily schedule as I do. Eat, breathe, and sleep, Swede fighters. But yeah, the out of character and in character distinction is, I believe, very hard, even in text-based role playing that isn't MMORPGs.
Right.
Because it's so easy to read into what people are writing. Like, we put our interpretations into what does this mean? Are they being passive aggressive? Are they being evasive? Are they not interested? And that's body language. I'm sitting here going all over the place with my arms because that's how we communicate. That's why I think emojis have become so common today, because people complement their text with some kind of emotion to show the tone of what they're saying. The problem is, if I may just, an interesting thing, that iPhone's grinning emoji is terrifying. It looks like they're having a heart attack. So when people send the grinning emoji to me and I see it, I'm like, what? What
Should I call 911?
Yeah, because
Are you
like
okay?
they're grinning with their teeth, like clenching them together, whereas it looks really friendly and like a Sony operative system, for example.
I have something very similar to that. I think it was my girlfriend's mother really liked the like angry emote because she thought it looked really like happy because it was a red face with a like.
Yeah.
And she just interpreted that like a smile, like a slightly manic smile.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that was perhaps a little
I
bit.
love it.
So basically, how to fix that, right, is like communication is the key.
Yeah. As we always land on in these pods, communication is so important, and so is session 0, right? So always have a session 0. No, but in role playing, you have a good thing with Final Fantasy XIV is you can have different tabs of chats, right?
Right.
So you can have out of character in a separate chat, so you can
Yes.
out of character clarify what you meant if there's some kind of confusion going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually not. It's usually more that people get attached over time to things they shouldn't be getting attached, or they start reading into things. Like, I don't know, if you have a character in a relationship with someone else's, you have to think that that's a person that's half across the world, maybe, and, you know, has real life issues and stuff like that, or
Until they
come-
knock on your door.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and
Which actually probably happens more often than it should.
it
Oh
does,
dear.
and that's it's super important to know that it's just a game.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely.
It's you don't see. I mean, of course, you see actors falling in love with each other, but you don't see someone play Romeo and someone play Juliet for like a whole season, and then like, oh, we're actually in love now, apparently, because we played these characters for 4 months.
No, you
You have to make
really-
the distinction.
has to be in a section, and it's really important in my opinion.
Yeah.
And you just, you know, if at the end of the day, real life comes first, and you have to take care of yourself, and no
Speak
amount
for
of
yourself.
Andrea's opinion does not represent the opinions of Swede Fighters. Please listen to more podcasts. Pretend that you're our friends.
oh my gosh,
No,
I'm sorry.
I'm kidding. I think real life, certainly, you always have to have a kind of a relationship with what's real and what isn't.
Yes.
And I think in role playing, it's much easier. Like in real life role playing, it's much easier to just be like, no, this doesn't work. But online, it's always touch and feel, kind of gauging other people, what they're cool with, what they're not cool with.
That might depend a bit on how you are as a person. Like, some people cannot read that much out of text. They'll read the surface value,
Like me.
and that will be it. You'll read a message, right? Do I need to buy milk? Okay.
Yeah. Whereas I would be like, what do you mean buy milk? Why didn't you buy milk? What's up with this? What kind of milk am I getting? Like, what is it? Is this supposed to be passive aggressive about me not buying milk?
That is actually how I read texts.
Aha. Okay.
Which is, I always take it the wrong way most of the time.
Yeah.
Which is probably also why I have always stayed away from chats.
So I'm assuming
most things.
you don't like our group chats on text messaging.
I shut the notifications off for that one.
All right,
But
that's fine. That's okay.
I go in sometimes and read them, but for me it's most because I have a very objective view on text when either I'm typing or
What do you
when
mean
some-
subjective? Because if you're reading a lot into it, isn't
I'm trying to be objective myself, to have a very neutral way of writing my messages. But that sometimes doesn't work. Because I read it as, oh, I'm really happy right now, so I should send this text. And they take it the entirely different way. Because my way of typing it is very different.
Than what
So-
you used to.
So I get a lot of misconceptions.
yeah.
But it gets better over time, I feel. when
You
you
get to know
I've been
better.
doing this for over 15 years by a computer.
Aw.
It's
I'd say
kind
it
of late.
oscillates. It oscillates. Sometimes it's really bad.
Do you get to know one person's way of typing so that you can predict that person? Or-
After a really long time. But
Okay.
that person also knows me, and they're like,
I mean,
either he answers or he answers okay or no.
I mean, we've been texting each other. We've been doing Swede Fighters for 2.5
Yes.
years almost,
Yes.
and we still get confusion going on. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that was just a little spin off
An
that.
aside, yeah.
Do you use microphones when?
Oh, VoIP, you mean? Oh,
Or things.
Voice communications.
Yeah.
We sometimes do, but only for social purposes or for coordination purposes. Because, for example, sometimes it happens that, like I said, that time 20 people showed up to escort supplies.
That would be a messy voice chat.
So we had to work with the person who would game mastering the event about coordination and who to give, who to poke, and who to kill. So it was a little bit of a let's coordinate. Or for example, when we do shows for the troop, for the like I say for the songs that we macro, it's really important that we have communication going because like you have to figure it out, like this song is going next, like mostly for that. But when we role play, I don't think so. No, never used it actually.
That is
personally.
probably the biggest upside for me in role-playing games and MMOs for later years. The voice-over IP section. For me, it's a lot easier because then I can go forth to a character and speak with them without having to type. And then I get then I have my voice to actually communicate with them. And also I'm a really slow writer and a slow reader. So that's a problem.
I mean, I have dyslexia,
Yes.
and you write less than I do.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have something that's not been diagnosed. That's who knows.
Probably.
I mean, my dyslexia is diagnosed as in, you fucking can't spell.
And I'm worse than you.
But I can read and see when I've spelled things wrong. I just have to reread everything I write, like 3 times.
I feel you. I think I have something in diagnosing as far as that goes. I typo all the time, but
I don't typo because I reread everything.
Oh, though you're really good. I should take a page of your book.
Unless I'm in a like very active chat, because then I can't, and then
Right.
typos everywhere.
Yeah.
But I wanted to just say quickly to Toby, I think there's a downside to using VoIP in roleplay. For example, one of the people that replied said that they prefer not having to use their voice or voice act purely because they're playing a character of the opposite gender.
Yes.
And they're like, if I speak in a certain way,
Kinda ruins
they
the
will get a
illusion.
different immersion of a different feeling for my character than it would. So it not having to be bound to voice to them feels like being able to express their character better. But
Yes.
again, it's
No,
a matter of
I understand that
personalized-
perfectly, but for me, it works better.
Yeah.
Okay.
But and absolutely, I'm sort of on the same scale. I play your character's bubbly sort
Sister?
of sister, younger sister, who's kind of useless and just lazes around and goes fishing every day, and mom hates her. Like
the
if I would
perfect
voice
character.
roleplay her, that would be so weird because I'm super not useless. I'm not a 20-something cat girl, so that would be weird.
Now I have the weirdest mental image.
But it's I do agree. I think that when I text roleplay, it's very liberating to not have to speak. But I definitely understand the issue you would have, Toby, that tonality is very hard to get across in text.
Yes.
So that was one of the big downsides of role-playing online. And I think that's where we're going to have to end today's episode because we've gotten quite a long time. We probably didn't cover all the questions we wanted. But
There's a lot more.
There's a lot more. So we might return to this topic at a later date.
Maybe.
Maybe.
And of course, if you... We haven't said this very long, but if you listeners have any questions to any of our guests or us, you're free to comment in the section below or send us an email or basically just get in touch with us on Twitter or wherever we are, and we'll try to answer it.
Yeah.
All right, and I guess until next time, keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
Keep rolling.
Thank you for listening to Swede Rolls. Your support means the world to us. The music you heard playing at the start and the end of this episode is Fireside Tales by Darren Curtis. The intent of this podcast is to discuss themes and issues in all manner of gaming, but primarily focused on the RPG genre. If you have any comments or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Pay us a visit at swederolls.com, where you can also learn about the people doing this podcast and more. For our Let's Play channel, check us out at youtube.com/Swede_fighters. And until next time, keep rolling.